Oh boy. Yeah, I got that fire a little too hot. But this is the teepee. And yes, it doesn't look great, but you see, that's kind of the way, really the only way I can do it, because the shape of the teepee is not the shape of the tarp. The tarps are square. So that's what you end up with. I don't really know how to do that properly, but I got it up there and I'm going to secure it real good with ropes and stuff, and not completely finished, but just got it potentially up there. And that leaves the front open. Now I can get another tarp, but I may just leave that open, or put just some clear plastic there so I can get the light in. But this will give me shelter from the rain, which is about all it does, and keeps it warm in here when you got a fire going. I went and checked that, and it's not hot at all. It looks like it would be. This is really pretty good size. I mean, you can walk right up to there without touching your head. And there's a lot of room over here, which is where I think I'll put a bed. And yeah, got some wine. Had to go back into town because I didn't have any wine, and I needed a glass of wine to kind of celebrate getting this much of it done so far. So I have some shelter. I'm just worried what my daughter was talking about with the wind. They probably don't want to come in because it's not even that cold. So, what are you doing over there? Hey! What are you doing? You okay? Just hanging out where it was a little cooler? Yeah. Oh, buddy. So cool. So, yeah, it isn't, it was really hard just getting that thing up there. But it is a nice big area, and we can continue to add on to this and strengthen the poles. Like I never did get one of these poles to go up in there. I'm still got to get another pole, I think. Nah, I don't know. Not sure. Probably not. I mean, I think the poles are done, but I may get some poles to go across, like in a T, to just kind of, that way you can hang stuff, you know, to do push-ups or pull-ups or whatever from the beams. But that big, I wanted it big enough to where I could come in and people could come and we could get a few chairs around the powwow room and you know, and watch the fire and tell stories, ghost stories or whatever. So, and it looks out over the canyon there, the creek down below, not too far down. It's not too far to walk to the creek to get your water. So this will be a place to come out and get shelter, and back in the woods where I think a person could survive if things got to that point, which it looks like. Now they're talking about Biden's talking about having to have some kind of a card on you, and you can't buy or sell unless you get the card. Now, of course, they're gonna fight it, and it might not happen within weeks, but it may happen within months. And somebody said Trump's going to The Hague, which I don't know what that's all about. I hadn't heard that. I don't know. That's the world court. But I don't think Trump would go there to settle any disputes because, you know, he was the one that was against the Hague when they tried to wield their jurisdiction over the United States. He said, you don't have any jurisdiction. Israel's fighting that too. The Hague court is trying to take out. So I think the Hague is actually run by the liberal you know, the same liberal people that run our court and want the one world government. So I don't know what all that's about. That probably, whoever was telling me that was probably saying that the Hague is still trying to get Trump on something, you know. If you're, you know, like it's the Hague that tries war crimes. So maybe they'll try Trump for a war crime when he never even, first president in our history that, well, I don't know about in our history, but in a long time that didn't go to war with somebody. And of course, you know, they're going to say, well, he assassinated the Iranian general or something. But, you know, of course, Obama assassinated, supposedly assassinated bin Laden. And Muammar Gaddafi, I think Hillary had something to do with that too. Of course, some say that was a clone. I don't know. And Saddam Hussein. You know, I wonder about the clone thing simply because I have it in my head that these evil, wicked beings cannot do any murdering on their own. They're not allowed to. Because they're considered the gods. Whoever these gods are. The devils, you know. Whoever these devils are. You know, devil comes from the word devo, which is divine. It meant, you know, powerful spirits. It didn't necessarily mean evil. But it came to be understood as the powers that be, which basically are evil because they're of this world. And those powers, the devas, are, you know, sometimes just translated unclean spirits. But whoever they are, you know, whether they take on human form, which I believe they did, or else they could not have fallen. There are at least 200 of them. Now, of course, ancient esoteric wisdom says that there were other spirits spawned from this union. There, it talks about spirits that were spawned from the Yahweh and Eve. It talks about spirits that were spawned from Lilith and Adam. And then, you know, so I really do believe that a lot of that refers to the evils that are in human beings. We're possessed with these mental attitudes. And they're almost like programs that get programmed into us and makes the whole thing out of whack. See, I've been saying that the Garden of Eden was more or less a temple. And, you know, I don't even necessarily, you know, I mean, I've made a distinction in the past between paradise and Eden because the Apostle Paul talks about paradise as the third heaven. And I don't really think, you know, the garden that was boy, that fire's really going. I wish it would kind of die down a little bit. Whew, look at that. It's like the fires of hell in that thing, isn't it? It's just such a great draft in here. It makes the fire really go. No smoke or anything in the eyes, much. Much. But, what were we talking about? So, whether or not I mean, Eden cannot be paradise, the paradise of our Father in heaven, the third heaven, because just like with everything that our Father in heaven made, Yahweh makes duplicates, but it's a replica, and it's not nearly as good. So he made everything in form. He formed Adam from the dust of the ground, the elemental spirits that rule over us. Get it? They're elemental dust. Remember that song? All we are is dust in the wind. But we're not actually dust in the wind. But this ego is, and this material world is just an illusion. So the Eden that Yahweh made is the sanctuary to this particular abode, this dimension. But it's not the same as the... Remember we talked about how our Father in heaven has 12 animal gradations. It has a whole... everything that you can imagine, there's a reality. Trees have real trees. There are real trees. But the trees you see on this planet are not real. They're just a duplicate, an image. And they could be an exact replica. We're talking about computer science here. All is a hologram. But the main program... Man, that fire's really going. It's beautiful the way it looks, isn't it? The camera shows it almost like a demonic thing. It's like blazing, but in real life it looks like that, but it's more orange and it doesn't look quite the same. But so, this world looks real, and we're living here, but it's temporary. But the only reason it has any existence is because it's made kind of in the image of the real, but a lower dimension. Everything's more lower, a different... It's like a replica, but not as good. And so it's like the files get corrupted. So that's what we were talking about when we're talking about demons. Because if our Father in heaven, who is infinite and eternal, so therefore he doesn't create in 6 days, but the universe continually goes around and around and matures and evolves, or manifests slowly and gradually, because the Lord is not slow concerning his promise, but is patient with ye, that all may attain unto salvation. Because, so it's not like it's not perfect, it's just that it's like a seed, a bare seed it may be, but it must first die before it become alive. And you put it in the ground and it dies, and then it blooms and blossoms, and he gives it a body as it pleases him. There's the body of the fish, the body of the... Now that's our Father in heaven that does that. And that was in Genesis chapter 1, where Elohim made the heavens and the earth. But then there's Genesis 2, where you don't have creation there, but you have the formation, the making into form. So it's a kind of a replica, but there's problems with it, because Yahweh is very egotistical, and he thinks that that's all there is what he is, what he's made. And he thinks that he created everything. So it's kind of like living in this world and looking at everything and thinking you created it, but not knowing all of its potential, not understanding that you're only reflecting as though a light. You're a lamp. Like John says, I'm not the light. I'm only a lamp burning for a while to show you the path unto the real reality. Christ is the real, the truth, the way, and the life. The reality. My Father's in heaven. He's real. He's love. That's the reality. But in this world, it's not just love. There are programs that have been screwed up So you look at paradise, and what's the serpent doing in here? Now the serpent's starting to talk. Well, serpents aren't supposed to communicate with you in that manner. I mean, we all have the DNA, which whispers in our ear. And if we need it, it kicks in like a schoolmaster, like a hard taskmaster. See, now there's a scripture that will show you, because a lot of people have questions about that. Did our Father in heaven approve of any of this physical creation? The problems that we have and any of it. You know, some people think, well, the devil's just his handyman. The devil's just doing what the Lord wants him to do, right? That's his job, to be the tempter. Well, that's not true, because Jesus explained to the disciples. He said, I made a garden. Okay, now that's not the garden that Yahweh made. That's the garden or the creation that Elohim made. In fact, we all had a part in it. We all create with our word. That's why it says that the Son was with the Father from the beginning. We were all in the Son, right? We clapped our hands for joy at the founding of the world. And it says that we were all in Christ from the founding of the world, and through Christ all things were created, both in heaven and in earth. All things. By His word. See, we have that word in us. We have that intelligence. That thing, logos, which means mind, or logic, or reason, or whatever it is, that higher consciousness, higher reasoning that we have, that is what God is. And it is that creates all things. It was with the Father from the beginning. So we create all things through faith, through the Spirit of the Almighty, which is that goodness, which is agape, which is love. We create by love. And we were doing that. We were all there. And we created the reality. Elohim, plural, all of them. Male and female. He made them. In the image of the divine, He created them. So the divine is exactly like Adam and Eve, male and female, the divine Virgin Mother, and the divine Father. And they create something not in time, because there is no time and space with our Father in heaven. He created something in a sense like He just manifested, like He's the sun that manifests His universe. He's the energy that gives life to all things. And it's always been there, and if He's the creator, He's always been creating. He's always existed. So the eternal universe doesn't always exist for all time, because there is no time. It simply exists in the place that we call eternity, the reality. It exists, it's there now, it was there then, it will be there forevermore. You have nothing to worry about. You're immortal. You're eternal in Christ from the founding of the world. But what if one of the divine being's creatures and we must have free agency to do whatever we want. And if one of these free agents, these immortal beings, if they got out there by themselves somewhere and somebody told them a lie and they began to believe it, they might believe. That's how powerful lies and words are. Not only can we create the universe, but the devil, he has the same power to create with his word. But you see, the devil used his word to deceive rather than to create, to tear down rather than to make. So to say that Yahweh created is not even close, because really what He did was tear down. Our Father creates and the devil tears down. It's the opposite. He does everything the opposite. Okay? He doesn't create a loving home for us. He simply sees us and He's jealous and He says, oh, I don't want them to become like God. I am God and there is none else. They must be punished. And he comes down to create havoc, and he deceives, because that's his name, the deceiver. And because he is Yahweh, because he is the power of this world, the God of this world, who makes laws, and you have to obey them in this world, which belongs to him, in this reality, which is an illusion. As long as you're going to be traveling through the illusion, you must obey the law of the God of this illusion. It's a temporary bubble that will dissipate quickly if you know the truth. But as long as you're under the illusion, you're under the illusion of the one who put it here. And he came up to you and he said, look, ta-da, ta-da, you're my slave. And this is the way it is. These are the rules. Get down and worship me. And so he had intercourse with us in some sense. He had, just because, it's like Adam and Eve had intercourse and created co-creation. They created other beings. They're children. But they did so with that great power within them, bred with lust in their heart rather than that pure spirit of creation. And therefore every child from that point was born in sin, in the sense that they were born in a world that was deception. They were in an illusion, and they didn't know. When they woke up, they didn't wake up to reality. They woke up to this world, which is just an illusion. So therefore, all these little thoughts that you're going to see, all the laws, which are curses, and all the rules are just to keep you down so you can't fly off and go back to heaven, go back to the light. So those are the demons that are spawned. They're the little programs that get caught. So you see, that temple that Yahweh made was we call Eden. It was a temple. And it had a stone that Yahweh created, which is granite or something like that. He chiseled it out with these words. And, we've been so deceived to think, oh my goodness, this is the divine law of God, right? Oh, wow, the Ten Commandments. Look, think about the Ten Commandments. They're not good laws. I mean, any law, what is it's crazy that we've come to the point where we think that laws are good. Laws come with punishment, or else there's nothing there. It'd be like saying there's a gear there, but it has no teeth. Well, then it's not a gear. It's a pulley. Or maybe it's not a pulley. Maybe it's just something going around and around slipping and ain't doing anything. But without gears, it isn't of any value. I mean, there's no law without the consequences. So death and everything is a curse. And any of these laws that have to be made that somehow say that we're bad is obviously not good, because we were created, we're immortal, we can't improve, basically. Once we wake up, we find out we're divine. We can't improve, we're the divine being. And everything we think is love, and through this kind of creation, we just create butterflies in a beautiful world. But when somebody comes in there who is coming from a point of view of ignorance and not understanding the reality, having never gone to the pleroma, Yahweh didn't. He never saw the pleroma, the lights, the fullness. So, with his limited knowledge, he just assumed that the world that he was creating with his mind was the only world there was. He couldn't remember his creation being, he didn't remember his Father in heaven, because Father in heaven is everyone's father. So, he made up arbitrary rules, just from him, not from the source. Just made it up. Now, he might have thought it was moral. He might have thought it was good. But he probably did some good things, because it says, well, he says in Isaiah, I am the creator of light and darkness. I make good and evil. But you see, our Father in heaven, he's light and only light, and there's no darkness in him. And he can't tempt anyone with evil, nor can he be tempted with evil. And he doesn't keep count of your injuries. And he's not partial. And he lets the sun shine on the righteous as well as the unrighteous. And he lets the rain come down on the righteous as well as the unrighteous. He doesn't care, because you're his children, because he doesn't have any... He made you independent and divine. And you go out like a child and you stumble and fall because you're only a baby. You're learning. And your mother comes along and says, oh, my baby, picks you up. It gives you a chance to try it again and again and again until you start walking. Some babies walk when they're 9 months. Some take a year. Some take a year and a half. But we eventually learn to walk. It's not unusual. There are different circumstances. We're all the same. We're all equal. It's like a field of wheat. Would you say that one of the stalks of wheat is so great? Why, look at that stalk of wheat. It's so amazing. Wow. No, it's just a stalk of wheat, and it looks like all the other stalks of wheat. And we're all individuals. We're just, when the harvest comes, we all look the same except for one difference. Some of the wheat, because it got a little extra water, maybe got a little extra sunshine, or it got some temperate weather, and it grew. Maybe the soil had minerals, something. And it grew a little higher and a little faster, and it was ripe a few days before the other. And these are what the Bible calls the first fruits. So we're waking up. Why are we waking up? Well, because when we were with the Father, we created all things. One of the amazing children of the Lord was made in this physical world. And he had this amazing world. And he concentrated on a lot of pleasure, because he was down here and he didn't really understand things. And so he thought sex was something that he created. And he thought, wow, this is amazing. Women are so nice. I think we should all get one or two. Well, how about a few of them, right? If you're really important, you can have more than 10, right? Solomon had 1,000. And, you put a veil over their face and tell them what to do. And they're like sex slaves. Wow, this is great. Hey, people are a good resource. We can buy and sell people and make slaves. See, this isn't our Father's world. It's not our Father's kingdom. But it certainly is a deception. And once the deception, why would a deception take hold? Well, because some beings begin to realize that pleasure is amazing. But whenever you take pleasure, you're going to take pain afterwards. For every action, there's an opposite reaction. So, there's a natural pleasure that comes with peace and goodness. You receive a sense of well-being and happiness by doing good unto others, as you would have them do unto you. Because if you do good unto them, you don't get so, it's not so much pleasure, right, to do good unto others. But the pleasure comes afterwards. This is how it works. It's like a pyramid scheme, right? You get 5 people, they get 5 people. So this is how it works. So you give and then you receive. What you do unto others, they do unto you. And so this is why it gets like it builds, and it's like exponential. Your glory, your happiness will grow. But if you get deceived and you start thinking that, wow, that was really great. I'm going to, the feeling I got from heroin was so great. But it's not a natural feeling. You're not supposed to be out of your mind in that amount of your body needs to have certain, it needs to be awake to make sure it doesn't fall into the fire or your natural state. So changing the natural state to try and get some unnatural pleasure is where we end up abusing the system, and it ends up being painful. So this world we live in, because it's not the reality, it's a duplicate that's based on ignorance. It has in the computer program that we're living in, this reality that's being, the information, the program that we're living in has got some files that are acting like demons. They're stealing your information. They're abusing you. You're a slave. And your computer is going to crash. Your body is going to crash. The world will eventually go into oblivion. This world that Yahweh's created will eventually perish because it's not the real world. So that is what is happening. We're not in the real world. The real world is not. The people that are in it don't believe that their thoughts are the source. They believe they are the source. And they agree. They got a subconscious mind, and those subconscious thoughts are agreed to. These are trees, these are rocks, these are mountains, and all of that's beautiful. But everyone agrees that we need to have free will, and we have to be natural and receive the light from the Lord. Not abuse this world, not abuse others, and live in that peace and that tranquility. So, I don't believe that our Father in heaven needs a computer. We have one. It's called the brain, and it's amazing. It's real, except for in this world, we're using not the original mind, but we're using the brain, which it's a material thing. And we're only able to see about 1-2% of reality because we're just using our brain. Imagine if we went into the world where our Father in heaven had originally created, where we all were there in the beginning with Christ. You would immediately see, potentially, you could see all of it. You could understand the depths, and tears would run down your face for joy. You live in a world where you were perfectly like a flower that blooms, and every flower blooms accurately because there's no chemical rain. There's no pesticides. There's no evil to mess up the flowers. And you see the bees and the butterflies. And because life is so much better, people are living in the world with happiness and peace. And therefore, that program that's got that error in it, that demonic error that rewrites the blueprint into some demonic horror flick that we're living in, doesn't exist where we're going. But these temples on the earth are temples that, they're not like the apostles say, they're types and shadows. They're not the reality. But they have things in them that describe the reality. The temple walls, there are 3. There's the outer court, the inner court, and then the most holy, which is separated from the court with a curtain. And so that's a sort of a wall or a curtain. And if you get beyond that, which represents the ignorance of this material, physical reality, then you're in the most holy where the Shekinah glory shines. And in there, in the light is eternity. But you see, that whole temple really isn't our Father's universe, because they sacrifice animals in there. And they put the blood on the altar. And the only way you can get into the most holy, where is our Father in heaven, is to make a sacrifice. Now, who made that law? Our Father in heaven? No. But as long as you're in his world, the one who created this temple, he won't let you out. He won't let you go. Unless you're willing to give back Caesar's things to Caesar. Give him his physical world. All the riches and the money and all the power that is in this material realm. You can't take it with you. You can't take your riches. That belongs to the God of this world. You can't take the riches with you. And so if you're worshiping material things, you're not worshiping our Father. You're not storing up for yourselves treasures in heaven, but treasures on earth where moth and dust and rust, how does it say that? Doth consume. It's always hard for me to say that. So, you make a sacrifice to get out of this world. Our Father in heaven's not the one that made up the rules. I want my son to die for all men's sins. No, that's not a law of our Father in heaven. It's not. I mean, our Father in heaven didn't make this physical, mortal, carnal body. And so he doesn't make laws about it. He certainly didn't make a law that says, I'm going to give you this mortal body and then I want you to murder yourself, to take up your cross. No, that's not from our Father in heaven. But why did Jesus tell us to take up our cross? Because he said, my Father's in heaven. Your Father's beneath. And he's the God of this world. And he's blinding your minds. You need to walk away. Give him back his stuff and let's go. We don't play no more. Because this is a messed up world. There's judgment in this house. That's why Jesus was taken to the pavement. That's where the priests judge the crimes in the court. Do you guys realize that everything that we're doing today, you may think, it's kind of like a replica of what we've been saying. There's spiritual world and the physical world. It's not real. Well, it's the same with the world we live in, the government. I mean, we're not under law because we're in Christ, right? I don't know. They'll come and haul you away and put you in jail. Throw away the key. Wait a minute, I thought they wouldn't do that. Well, Peter went to prison and the angel let him out. Yeah, they can nullify some of these laws. You can die and get resurrected from the dead because Jesus has power over any and every kingdom, even over the devil, to throw him into the bottomless pit. But he's not going to, because it's not his concern. Hell is forever. The God of this world is eternal. It's a cycle. He goes into the bottomless pit, and 1,000 years later, he comes out again, right? He's up and down. He's in and out. This is a cycle. Darkness will rule and light rules. Now, why is that? If our Father in heaven is the creator, why is it only light? Well, there is, because light's the only reality. Darkness is an absence of it. But because there's always more children born in this world who need to learn, you have to leave open a channel for the Holy Spirit to communicate with him. the flowers, the sunshine. That's the Holy Spirit. I mean, when you see the sunshine, you have happy thoughts. When you see butterflies and things like that, they communicate with you just like crystals can. But it's just like like the apostle says, we see things as though in a crystal, vaguely, the outline, but then we'll be face to face. So as long as you're in this world, you don't see the reality face to face, but with faith, we can hear the Spirit, and it talks to us, and it will interpret the groanings of the Spirit. Those are the gifts of the Spirit. So the Lord's always there. And originally, the Lord did make a paradise, more or less a temple, an eternal, pure temple, because all of his thoughts were pure, and they manifested a pure abode with pearls on the gates and precious stones, and it's symbolic, but the New Jerusalem's a precious place, made from gold, so precious. And the sun is the light thereof. You don't need a lamp. But because the Lord, I don't know what the dog's here. I'm down here where those hogs were. I guess they could come through, but they're not going to come into my tent. But they could be barking at something. Probably just a squirrel. But so in this world, the emerald stone that was found on Mount Horeb, which is the mountain of light, was brought down from the Father of lights. And upon that stone was written the law of love. But because the people weren't in that vibration of love, and they couldn't withstand and understand love, they couldn't grasp it. They wanted vengeance. They wanted meat. They missed the meat pots from Egypt. They were lusting for many things, and they weren't happy. They wanted justice. They wanted more prisons. They wanted more schools to teach more propaganda. They were being lied to. They were being herded in like slaves to build this kingdom. They wanted a king, and Yahweh loved it. And he gave them laws that were not good, and statutes that they could not live by, as it says in Ezekiel 22. So, that temple that our Father makes is perfect and immoral. But we can, in the coming kingdom, it says they will be a new Jerusalem, and they'll have 12 gates. You will go in and go out no more. It's eternal. It's a perfectly immortal being, an immortal home. This place is mortal. And so the stones that Yahweh wrote on Mount Sinai, Shin, which is the moon, reflectory, those laws were not perfect, but they were from a jealous God who wanted us to become slaves, who wanted to imprison us. So the first three laws are what? Some people think they're great, but the first one is, I'm God and there is none else, right? The second one is, I'm God and there is none else, and bow down to me. And the third one is, I'm God and there is none else, and you shall not take my name in vain. Really, it's just about a jealous, angry God who wants you to continue to be a slave. The Sabbath isn't about you getting to rest. It's about you must work 6 days as my slave. And I'll give you 1 day a week that you go unto the temple and learn your instructions. Do what I tell you to do. When the Lord gave us instructions, he told us only that we didn't need a man to teach us, that we could receive that truth from within ourselves, from the Spirit that he would send from the Father, which was within us, and the Shekinah, in the beyond the veil, beyond this material world. So our Father doesn't have any computers. The universe is real. It's eternal. It's in neither time or space. But this world is in time and it's in space. And it has an appointed time. And eventually, it's thrown off like a cocoon. It's discarded. So, what are you doing, guys? What are you barking at? So dark I can't see you. Where you at? There you are. There you are. Where are you? My goodness, I can't even see him. Can't see anything outside that fire. It's just pitch black in here. You see your eyes somewhere? There's your little eye. See your eye? Yeah. So, we don't want to be programmed. That's why there's so much programming. Yeah, the Torah is instructions. You must be regulated mentally by the instructions of Yahweh. That's what the Old Testament tells you. That's what they're trying to do now with all of this control, with this card that they want you to get. You won't be able to drive or buy and sell without the mark, without showing your allegiance to Yahweh, without being a slave. They don't want you to be God. They don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to live forever. They'll cast you out. So, we don't want the program of the law of Moses. We don't want the concept that we have to be told how to act. Or the concept that we are evil, and if we didn't have a law telling us what to do, I mean, think about it, we're divine. We're divine beings. So we make up the rules. We created the universe. We have love within us. We have the divine in us. Anyone who is a temple of the living deity, they don't need a man to teach them. They don't need instructions. Because we're the creator. If you identify as a creator, as the one who's making everything the way it is, then you're going to want everything to be wonderful. You're going to consider all these people in the world your brothers and sisters. And you're going to consider them your family. And your only intention is for everyone to be happy and good. And so the eternal principles still work if you apply them. Give and you shall receive. But if you're bent on living in this world for reward, you want to get your reward in this world, well, you received your reward already. If you got all the riches and that's the material reward. That's it. That's what you get. There is no eternity with that. And The rewards of our Father are endless and ever, and they're natural. So we follow after love. Anyway, this is it. This is the teepee. It's up. I gotta make sure that I get it all secure so it doesn't blow over when the winds come. And we'll try to do that over the next few days. And I'm probably gonna have to go home, go back to the cabin for a couple days, but we'll get back out here soon. I enjoy it out here. I enjoy sitting around the campfire. Drinking a nice glass of wine. Franzia. And I don't drink a lot. I'm not like I'm a wine bibber. Me and Jesus are wine bibbers. But not gluttons. We don't overdrink. I just drink a little. A glass. I drink like one of these. It's just it's like it's about the size of a small Pepsi container, but it was a juice container. And I just drink one of those per evening. And it kind of helps me, because I drink so much coffee during the day. And I've done that all my life. And I don't think there's anything really harmful. I've not been aware that caffeine causes too much problems. I mean, everything does. In moderation, everything's fine. But so I drink a lot of coffee because it's kind of like you got to pick your poison. You know, if I didn't do any coffee, if I was like that, I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't drink coffee. They're out popping Valium or something, you know. You need stimulants in this world almost. It's almost impossible to live in this world without them, because sometimes you need to sleep and sometimes you need to wake up, and you know the herbs give you a boost. And but I really believe that if we were to learn, if we were to get back to the nature and just eat natural herbs. I was talking to somebody the other day about cannabis, because you know you have cannabinoid receptors in your body, but it seems like if you overdo the cannabis, you end up getting too high for too long. It starts, you know, you start kind of coming down off of that in a sense. And, you know, if you quit doing the cannabis for a few days, you get tired. I've had that problem sometimes. I'll get tired for a couple days. So I think that it's important not to smoke it. Smoking anything can make you feel a little bit down and tired. Clogs up your glands and stuff like that. When you eat it, then your liver digests it. And it's just like a food. And the cannabinoids go in and just give you a sense of well-being, and not necessarily a real amazing high. But you can still overdo it, you know. Even with eating, you know, if you eat too much anything, you know. But we do have to eat a little bit. We need to eat some foods and not overdo it. And everything will be a lot better. So I'm going to go ahead and go, guys. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.